wasn't only the wind, the trees coming down, those normal kind of hurricane things. It was also the tidal surge that we saw in this state. And about half of our customers were impacted with outages because our substations were flooded.
Welcome to Power Perspectives Podcast from Energy Central, the leading community platform for over 250,000 utility professionals. Head to energycentral.com to subscribe to our newsletters, connect with other power pros, and learn more about the future of utilities. Now, let's get into today's conversation. In today's episode, we're heading to the Garden State, to New Jersey, where the energy future is being shaped by powerful forces: aging infrastructure, surging energy demand, regulatory complexity, and rising customer expectations. For utilities like PSE&G, the challenge isn't just about keeping the lights on, it's about upgrading the grid for a stormier, more electrified future, all while keeping energy affordable and customers and employees safe. Today's guest sits at the center of this balancing act. We're thrilled to be joined by Kim Hanemann, President and CEO of PSE&G. PSE&G is New Jersey's largest electric and gas utility, serving 2.4 million electric customers and 1.9 million gas customers. In her role, Kim brings decades of experience to the table, from restoring the power after Superstorm Sandy to leading massive grid modernization efforts. She's here to share how PSE&G is navigating today's infrastructure investment puzzle and how they're making decisions with safety, reliability, and affordability as the guiding lights. And reminder, you can catch every episode of Power Perspectives and Energy Central's other shows on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and wherever else you get your shows. So subscribe, leave us a comment or rating, and don't miss our newest series tackling the world of innovation called Piloting the Future. I'm Jason Price, coming to you from New York City, and with me virtually is Matt Chester, Energy Central Community Manager and podcast producer, based in Orlando, Florida. All right, Matt, what are some of the key themes driving the conversations on energycentral.com these days that we're looking for with some executive insight on?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jason. And I'd say right now the pulse at Energy Central is that we're seeing a lot of conversation around, the main chief utility concern of how are we modernizing aging infrastructure while also keeping reliability and affordability front and center. And then further, there's also the growing focus on meeting that rapidly expanding load profile from data center growth, electrification, all of that. And then at the same time, the questions also lean into the human side of things. How do we meet these hurdles without overburdening customers? And on the utility side, how do we ensure the utility workforce is ready to tackle all of these new challenges? So all of these tensions are regularly atop the mind for our community.
Fantastic. Well, let's get to the conversation. So, Kim Hanemann, welcome to Energy Central's Power Perspectives podcast.
Well, thank you. It's great to be with you today.
As likewise. So thank you for your, taking time out of your busy day, and let's just jump right in. All right. So let's get to the big picture. What's top of mind for you right now as you look across PSE&G's grid and customer base?
Yeah, I think what's top of mind right now in the state of New Jersey is affordability. Whether it's your grocery bill or your energy bill. And right now, as of June, our customers, all electric utility customers, have seen between a 17 and 20% increase in cost this summer. And that is really driven from the cost of procuring the generation from the PJM market. So it's not something the utility companies, PSE&G, profit from, but it is a cost that is passed through. And we recognize that is a big impact. And it was further magnified this summer we had a really hot June and July. People were using more power, and the power is at a higher rate. So there's been a big impact to our customers, and we recognize that. And say we are really committed to working with our customers on that. We introduced in June a summer initiative that protected our most vulnerable customers from shutoffs, and also blended out in terms of some relief from the price increases over the summer months. So those are things we did in the short term to help our customers. But the long-term solutions are really around addressing that supply-demand imbalance and the need for more generation. both in New Jersey and within PJM.
Kim, we're going to dive into the resource issues in a moment. I want to step back and learn more about your leadership and where and how you got to and where, your journey, where you got to today. So you lived through some defining moments in New Jersey energy history, and I know it well just living across the river in New York. So from the Northeast blackout to Superstorm Sandy, how have those experiences shaped the way PSE&G approaches infrastructure resilience today and the way you lead the company?
So great question. And I've been in this business for almost 4 decades. And I started with this company as an engineer right out of college. And have really grown up in field operations, responding to emergencies. And some of those big events really shaped our history and shaped our energy policy. So I'll give you specific examples. We experienced the 2003 blackout. And after that 2003 blackout, it made us all, both state, utilities, federal government, look at what we needed to do to fortify or make our transmission system more resilient. So after that, I actually led the organization that was responsible for those large transmission infrastructure builds that happened really between, say, 2010 and 2020. So that was a big event that shaped really the policy and our infrastructure investment in this state. The next big event was the Superstorm Sandy in 2012. During Superstorm Sandy, back then, we had 2 million of our customers impacted from that storm, which was back then about 90% of our customers were out because of that storm. So after that, after we finished restoring all the customers in like a week and a half, but after that, it really made us think differently about our infrastructure going into the future. So we recognized that we had to make our infrastructure more resilient to these extreme weather events. And something that was so different for us about Sandy was it wasn't only the wind, the trees coming down, those normal kind of hurricane things. It was also the tidal surge that we saw in this state. And about half of our customers were impacted with outages because our substations were flooded. Some areas of the state, we had 11-foot tidal surge that came in and flooded a number of substations. So over the next 10 years, we embarked on what was called our Energy Strong program. And once again, I was involved in the team leading that in terms of the execution, and it was around making those assets more resilient to extreme weather events. And over that time period, we raised and rebuilt about 50 some substations. And so those same stations, about 36 of them were underwater with Sandy. They were all raised and rebuilt. And kind of the real test for us was in 2021 when Ida hit. Not as intense, but a very similar storm. We had only 200,000 customers impacted. So those same substations, a perfect example is Somerville, New Jersey. We had almost 5 feet of water go through that substation. It had been rebuilt, Somerville, and there were no customers that were impacted because that substation was resilient and stayed out of harm's way from the water. So that was kind of the proof in the pudding that we made smart, right investments for the future to make our system more resilient. The other thing we did over that time frame was there's one thing in making your assets more resilient to extreme weather events, and the other component was when they happen, how can we more efficiently, effectively respond to them? So we did a lot of technology upgrades, our outage management system, or what's called reclosers, that instead of losing an entire circuit, you only lose a quarter of the circuit because you can reclose and sectionalize them. So all those kind of investments that really gave us a lot more intelligence and ability to respond and isolate and restore more quickly.
That's great. Thank you for that. All right. So I want to go back to what you brought up earlier during the introductions, and it's really around, the long-term planning, but, short-term concerns and short-term needs, particularly with what you faced over the summer. So, you alluded to the generation deficit, particularly being in the PJM area and the cost rising around that, and particularly the impact it's hitting New Jersey customers. So can you talk more about that? What does it mean for you as the distribution operator? and how is it impacting customer affordability and reliability?
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned, it is really impacting our customers. So what does it mean? So right now, New Jersey imports more than 40% of their power from other states, and they depend on the PJM capacity auction process to procure that power. And last year's auction saw almost a tenfold increase in those pricings. And that's what's translated into this 17 to 20% increase in rates for customers. So this is that classic case of supply and demand imbalance. So what happens where there's a bigger growing demand and there is a reduced supply, pricing goes up. Now, this pricing increases are supposed to send signals to the market to build more generation. To date, that hasn't happened. So we have old generation retiring, like old coal plants. We don't have enough new generation, and we have load growing from things, as you mentioned, like data centers, electrification, EV, onshoring, manufacturing. So all of those things are making load grow. So this imbalance is really what's triggering these increases. The next round of auctions that just happened this summer, the good news is for our customers, provided energy pricing stays about stable, we don't see any significant increases this time next year for our customers.
All right, so I have to ask, there's a law, and people listening in may not understand, the practices in the Northeast, for example, with the ownership of generation. That every state is a little bit different. So, talk to us about that. Does it help us understand, what the law is? A little bit of background there, but then take us into what that would look like, particularly given these resource needs that your state is facing, and that I understand there's nuclear generation in discussion here and other sorts of next generation capabilities that might bring to you. So it sounds like maybe this law that disallowed you from owning generation may be outdated. So I'd love to get your perspective on this.
So right now in New Jersey, regulated utilities are prohibited from owning generation or building generation. And that happened back in 1999 with the passage of a law called the DECA. There are other states, neighboring states, that are still what they call vertically integrated, where they own the generation, they own the transmission, and they own the distribution. The good part about that process is they do what's called integrated resource planning. So they look at demands and they figure out what are the resources they need across the board in terms of generation, transmission, and distribution. Now, that is not something in New Jersey that the utilities do or we have control to do, but that's what you see in other states. So what we're saying is we have an obligation to provide that safe, reliable service to our customers, and we want to be part of the solution. And we believe the state needs to move. It needs to move fast. And we're saying we're here. We want to be part of the solution. We're saying if the state wants us to be part of it, they amend the law and allow us to once again build and own and operate regulated generation. We would love to be part of that and part of the solution for our customers. So we're open to working with our state, with policymakers on long-term solutions that really get more generation into the state. We're not looking to re-regulate the entire state and put everything back the way it was. There are elements like retail choice, which work and work well, but we're all about coming up with solutions to address this supply and demand imbalance here.
Let's shift gears for a moment and talk about safety. Safety is paramount with anyone in your position, or at every utility, of course. But let's just say it's a sacrosanct when it comes to the critical infrastructure industry. So let's talk about what does safety look like as a practice at PSE&G today, and especially how does it look like as you modernize and expand your grid?
We have a saying here that safety is our number one value. And we are very purposeful in saying it's a value, not a priority, because priorities change and values don't. So safety is the number one value. We put that as the number one thing above everything else for our employees, our customers, and the communities we work in. So we have a long history of a very strong safety culture and safety results here. For the past 20 years, we've had a grassroots safety system. I would say the change we've made over the past 2 years, especially, is really the focus on eliminating any serious injuries. My goal as COO of this is that all my employees go home safe and well to their families and loved ones at the end of the day. And I actually say we want you to go home even better because we're giving you some new tools in your toolkit and giving you some new skills. So we've implemented what we call a Safety 2.0 program, which is working and really enhancing our strong culture, but it's giving folks some new tools in their toolkit around hazard identification and mitigation. Because when we've had more serious injuries, what we find is people failed to recognize the hazard of whether it's a line of fire accident or something like that and take enough actions to mitigate that hazard. So that's what we're really focused on right now. Safety leadership training for our crew chiefs, our first line supervisors. We emphasize stop the job, right? If something doesn't look right, we expect all of our employees to stop the job. Ask questions, only start. Our tail words are saying start when safe. And that's a big part of that culture that we all have a responsibility to keep each other safe. There are many hazards in this job for my electrical line workers, my substation workers, my gas workers. So those skills around recognizing and mitigating hazards are really, really important to prevent serious injuries.
Kim, I'm going to throw the next question to you. I'm putting you a little bit on the spot here, but you did talk about affordability, and that's another key pillar of yours. If we're facing these capacity constraints and resource constraints, and it's pushing up costs, then you're facing capital, investment upgrades, or, for the infrastructure, you're potentially pushing up costs. The customer is getting hit with this, right? So, there's no easy answer here, but I'd love to hear about how do you communicate all this? How do you communicate that balance of affordability, but reliability and just the general market dynamics that we all have to plan?
So it is a balance, that's for sure. We have what we say to all of our employees is we need to do the best we can with the costs that we are responsible for. Those costs we control are operation and maintenance. And when we do our capital program, we most efficiently execute that in terms of keeping that cost down as much as we can. When you look at an overall perspective, New Jersey, when you look at share of wallet, while this has been a big price increase this past year, the share of wallet in New Jersey actually ranks in PSE&G even better than New Jersey overall in terms of really best share of wallet in terms of the percentage of people's overall income as compared to the rest of the country. So big increase for people this summer, but overall in terms of share of wallet, we do rank very, very well. When we look even at our rates compared to others in the region, our electric rates are lower than the average and our gas rates are the best amongst all of our regional peers too. So the other thing we tell our customers, we have been doing a lot with what can they do to save energy? And that's the other part of the balance. We have a lot of energy efficiency programs that are with home audits. It's around replacing equipment with 0% on bill refinancing to get more efficient, whether it's a furnace, a water heater, all of that, smart thermostat, demand response programs to lower their usage during peak times, and even something as simple as that equal payment plan. Right. So instead of people experiencing the high fluctuations during the summer months, it evens that out for the entire year that people can more effectively budget. So those are some of the things that we're doing to create that right balance. But I must tell you, so we had a couple of pretty significant storms this summer, and we are going to need to continue to invest in our system to provide people that reliable power that they all expect. Our customers, like anywhere else, electricity and power and heat is a necessity. And our customers expect that. We're really proud of our reliability results. We have, top decile performance We've won the Reliability One Award in our area, the Mid-Atlantic, for the past 23 years. So we continue to make the right smart investments, execute them well, and deliver those results for our customers. And they've recognized us. We last year we won the J.D. Power #1 spot for gas and electric residential customers. So our customers recognize what we're doing too.
Let me ask you about reliability. All right, so we know that reliability is often measured by some standard metrics, but the electric customer is changing. The expectations of that customer is changing. So you've been in this industry for quite some time, so I'm sure you've thought about this. So what are metrics that you find most useful to you when you're seeing this evolution of the customer and the utility industry, and which data makes the most sense to track? Well, take us into the C-suite and how you look at metrics and which metrics are most stand out to you, and just your general thoughts around that.
Yeah, so there are some industry-wide benchmark metrics. We call them SAIDI and SAIFI, which basically measure how many times in a year a customer is out and what is the duration of those outages. So those are the ones that are kind of benchmarked across the industry, across the country. And those are the ones I said, we measure in the top 10% of those, so we have really strong, long ones. I would say most of our customers would prefer to have what's called perfect power, right? Their power never goes out. But some of the things we look at besides those is we do surveys with our customers, post-transactional surveys around, their reliability, their power. And those are what's important to our customers. So if I have an outage, how long am I going to be out? And was your estimated time of restoration accurate? So those are the things that we look and we measure because those are important. So our customers understand that they see some of these extreme weather events, they understand, but they want to know when they're going to be restored. And if it's over a certain amount of time, everybody loses their patience, especially in this part of the country as compared to other parts where they may be more used to more outages.
Right. No, for sure. All right. I want you to give us a little more insight into what really jazzes you up. What gets you excited about the grid of the future? What are some things that are motivating the workforce, or you think will motivate the future customer that PSE&G is looking at or considering? Any kind of investments or innovations that excite you the most that you're able to share with us?
I'm a little bit of an energy utility nerd, right? So I told you my background was engineering. So this is really a time of dynamic change in the industry. I even look at our what I would say traditional utility assets. They're all a lot smarter than they were. We're learning more about our customers and what's important to our customers and how we use data. It is the technology all around is changing quickly, and our customer expectations are changing quickly. The other thing I find really rewarding is the next generation of workforce coming in. And what I always marvel at is the balance between the very experienced workforce and the next generation and how they look at things and how they can work together to solve problems in different ways. But the example is when things that we used to do in hard copy paper and running a storm, and where we have apps and programs that help us do that more efficiently now. So there's a lot going on in the industry. There's a lot more technology in our industry. And part of that, all of that technology is also what's fueling load growth here with data centers, everything else, just in terms of people using more energy for that.
The world looks a lot different than it was 40 years ago, right?
Yes, it does. Some things are the same, but some things look very different.
All right, this has been a terrific conversation, Kim, and we really appreciate this. And we're not going to let you go. We are going to give you the final word, but we're going to pivot now to what we call the lightning round, which gives us an opportunity to learn more about you, the person, rather than you, the professional. So we're going to throw a bunch of questions at you. We ask you to keep your response to one word or phrase, and we're going to ask Matt to come back in to ask these questions. So, Kim, are you ready?
Sure.
Excellent. So, Kim, what is your favorite way to unwind after a busy day?
I love to go for walks and hikes, and I usually drag my dog along with me.
So actually, I grew up in New Jersey, as where you guys are located. So I'm curious what the most underrated part about the Garden State is to you.
So, like most, I love the Jersey Shore, down, especially down Cape May, that area. But to me, the most underrated place is Northwest New Jersey, like Sussex County, the mountains, the lakes up there. It's absolutely beautiful. I told you I like the hike, so that's one of my favorite spots to spend time in.
Love it. Yeah. If you could assemble your dream dinner party, and this is famous, past, fictional, anybody, who would be there?
Well, I'm a Jersey girl, so it'd have to be Bruce Springsteen. And John Bon Jovi probably too. I would think my dream dinner party would have some legendary trailblazers, so whether they be in the science field, the sports field, like Billie Jean King, some amazing scientists. If I could assemble them all from New Jersey too, that'd be kind of fun. And I think you need to throw a comedian in there or something too. But
one of the things that we've been doing is collecting lightning round questions from our previous podcast guests and asking those to the future guests. So one we have came from Kevin Matthews, who works with a company called First Student. And he asked, what will be the impact of artificial intelligence to the energy world, particularly generation and transmission? And how are we going to be able to address that as it continues to become, a rapidly increasing area? Obviously, a little bit more than one word here is okay.
Yeah, so that's a lot about what we've talked about already, right? So that those data centers, AI is driving that load growth, and we are going to need more generation, either locally here in New Jersey or in other parts to address that. And I said, if it's not here, we're going to have to be able to move power around. So you're going to need more transmission. I said, we need more big wires then that are going to move that around. So that's really what we've been looking at and what we're forecasting into the future. You're going to need both of those elements here. And it's happening faster than most forecasted it would happen.
Okay, now it's your turn to leave a lightning round question for a future guest. And it can be topical on energy and utilities like the one you just got, or it can be kind of an off-the-wall question like the other ones I've asked you.
So I would say, ask your next guest what advice or what would they tell me and how we can solve this imbalance here in New Jersey. We're looking for all the great answers we can get from anyone. And I would say my question to the next one would be, we all have, our employees are our most valuable asset, right? In terms of how we accomplish our company's missions, visions, and what great ideas do they have in attracting and retaining their top talent.
And then the last one is just simply, what are you most motivated by?
I am most motivated as a person, challenges and coming up with solutions, so maybe that's the problem solving in me. And the other thing that is really motivated is my role of leading this incredible group of men and women here at PSE&G, the work they do each and every day to provide power, gas to our customers, what they do in severe events. I mean, it's really an honor to lead this group.
That's great. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Kim. Great questions. Great opportunity to learn a little bit more about you, Kim. So appreciate you giving us a little more insight into that. And with that said, we want to give you the final word. So knowing that you've got your peers in the industry listening in today, what perhaps are some takeaways or milestones or decisions that we should all be keeping our eye on, and anything to share with your peers that, is sort of unique and special given the position you're in?
Yeah, I'd say my final word was we all need to continue to work together for long-term solutions for our customers, whether they're this state or other states, and the commitment to do that. And we have some significant challenges, and we're going to have to work together and come up with those solutions, such as generation and how do we manage load growth together. So
sound words, solid advice. So really appreciate that. And I'm fully confident that our listeners will have questions and comments, and they'll post those on Energy Central's platform. And Kim, hopefully you'll stay engaged with some of those, and people can get in touch with you and follow up with any comments that you may have made, and keep that conversation going on the Energy Central community. So once again, thank you for your insights, and Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join us on the podcast.
Well, thank you so much. It was my pleasure to be with you today.
Beautiful. And you can always reach Kim through the Energy Central platform, where she welcomes your questions and comments. All right, Matt. Wow, what a great conversation. And really feel lucky to have Kim Hanemann join the show today. I know it's been long in the making, so really appreciate Kim's generous time with us. So she covered a lot of topics, a lot of really interesting and timely issues that are going on, not just in New Jersey, but across the country. But I think what makes it really interesting is what's going on in the state of New Jersey. So, Matt, for you, what stood out from the conversation?
Yeah, I think in short, my impression is, man, that what a hard job she has, and by that I mean, you asked an interesting question about kind of the different regulations and laws that they're dealing with and how those change, and it really just jumped out how a lot of times people maybe on the outside just have these broader platitudes of, we'll just do, more grid build out, do some permitting reform, build out new, whether it's nuclear or clean energy. And these are the things we need. Why don't you just do it? But hearing her kind of walk through it's almost a web of different jurisdictions and legal requirements and all of these that they have to face. It just shows that, those people in charge making those decisions, they likely have those same goals too, but they're just trying to do it in the right way and with a lot of nuance. And and I think that just takes a certain level of leadership. So that definitely came through with Kim. And, as my producer ears perked up, and I wrote it down right away when I heard her talk about how priorities change, but values don't. And I think that's a key takeaway is, as all these challenges, we're looking at, competing priorities, but, some things are unquestioned. And for them, it was safety. And I think that would be the case for anybody in utilities. But I think that's just a great reflection of how she's approaching and thinking about this challenging role that she has to play, and that our sector is in more broadly.
Yeah, no, that's a great call out, Matt. What stood out for me was around the conversation that she shared regarding the capacity constraints in PJM and what that means for the PSE&G customers. And more importantly, like, what role would generation serve in that state, and could that overcome some of the challenges that the rate base is facing? So, like, if nuclear generation is something that the state plans to invest in, or the utility plans to own and operate, how will that change the dynamic of those rules and laws, and what the role, what impact that plays in PJM's territory is all, like, really up for discussion. So all those, I welcome the listeners here to connect all those dots and draw their own conclusion on what this all means. But I think that there's challenges that it's very hard for her to overcome, but there are solutions that may be sort of like a backdoor opportunity to break from the stranglehold that some of these rules, these outdated rules and restrictions that have been put in place are weighing on utilities in the Northeast. All right, so that's what I took away from it. Is there anything else to cover?
I think a lot of the other stuff she covered just kind of speaks for itself. So, like you said, we're grateful that she joined us. We know she's busy, and we cherish our time with any of the executives at utilities. So, if we have any of them listening in, or any of our listeners are connected with other high ranking, top thinkers in the field, we'd love to have them on the podcast. So leave us a comment on the energycentral.com post, or reach out to us directly. And we'd love to keep these kind of high level conversations going.
Sound advice. And we welcome that feedback from the community. And as I mentioned, you can always reach Kim through the Energy Central platform, where she welcomes your questions and comments, as well as any questions and comments you want to send on to Matt and the Energy Central team. And with that, we want to say thanks to our sponsor, to West Monroe. West Monroe is a leading partner for the nation's largest electric, gas, and water utilities, working together to drive grid modernization, clean energy, and workforce transformation. West Monroe's comprehensive services are designed to support utilities in advancing their digital transformation, building resilient operations, securing federal funding, and providing regulatory advisory support. With a multidisciplinary team of experts, West Monroe offers a holistic approach that addresses the challenges of the grid today and provides innovative solutions for a sustainable future. And once again, I'm your host, Jason Price. Plug in and stay fully charged in the discussion by hopping into the community at energycentral.com And we'll see you next time at the Energy Central Power Perspectives Podcast.